Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are all having a fabulous day. Some of you are just getting started. Some of you have been up a while. Some of you are somewhere in between, or you've already been at it for a bit. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana. I'm a wellness advocate, a grad student studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, a girlfriend, runner, jazzerciser, advocate for all things physical activity, wellness, and just a lot of hats. And one of my favorite hats is the Wellness Wednesday hat, because after a lifelong battle journey, I don't like battle. I've decided I don't like battle. After a lifelong journey with anxiety and depression, I have learned a lot of things that I was called upon, I felt on my heart to share, knowing that when we share ideas, tips, and tricks, it helps others heal, right? So I always encourage, if you're on Wellness Wednesday, ask questions, drop comments, make sure they're relevant to the topic that we're discussing. And don't hesitate to message me if you have a topic you'd like to see me cover in the future, because obviously if I'm a grad school student, I love to learn. And I always relish the opportunity to learn about something I don't already know about. So, if you have been following me for a while, I hope you enjoyed last week's video about the Great Reset, which had to do with harnessing the time change to change habits. I called it, It's the Great Reset, and Charlie Brown. Y'all were warned a few weeks ago that I tend to get a little nostalgic this time of year. So last week's title was a nod to Charlie Brown and the Peanuts gang. This week is a nod to, well, the Clean Plate Club, if that wasn't clear enough in my teasers. So real quick YouTube update. If you haven't caught it yet, I do have my YouTube channel completely updated. All previous episodes of Wellness Wednesday are uploaded. And generally the current episode is uploaded within an hour after I get done with my live. So if you struggle to follow on Facebook, stay on Facebook, whatever, or you just don't have the time right now to listen all the way through, that video will be here for 30 days because Facebook only keeps live videos for 30 days. And then it will be on YouTube as long as YouTube's still a thing, I guess, or lets me keep it there. So you can go back through all 153 previous Wellness Wednesday episodes, 153 y'all, on YouTube. Just, I'll drop the link for the channel in the comments. Just like Facebook, it's really helpful if you like, comment, share, whatever, subscribe, because there's an algorithm. There's an algorithm to everything digital. And that really helps those videos get more views. And it's not so much that, understand that the goal behind more views for me is not to do anything but hope that information gets to somebody that needs it. You know, there might be a specific topic on a specific day that some specific person really needs to hear. And when we share, comment, and bump these videos up in the feed, they have a better likelihood of getting to that person that needs it the most. So, hope you enjoyed last week. That's my YouTube update. Y'all, the eating season is upon us. You've heard me talk about this before. I think I did a whole video about it. It usually starts, generally I joke that eating season is a nonstop parade of food that starts with Halloween and goes on until New Year's, okay? Everything is food related. There's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, there's Halloween, there's candy, there's drinks, there's parties, in my area, there's events. There's all kinds of community events that go on in October because it's usually when the weather starts to cool off. So in my area, it's basically started. So it's not just Halloween. It seems like Halloween, but for me, the eating season has already begun. And here's what I mean by that. So far I have been to a mixer, two dinners, and there's a big community barbecue tomorrow night. So we had our civic association dinner Saturday. There's just a lot of food. Everything around here revolves around food. So these events start up for us because I'm in Florida, and it's warmer. So our weather doesn't start to get temperate where we can stand to be outside for very long until about October. So that's when everybody tries to cram in all the community events before Thanksgiving. because then once Thanksgiving happens, not a whole lot happens because everybody's got their own individual parties and celebrations. So raise your hand if you grew up in the Clean Plate Club, because here in the eating season is where this becomes a real issue. So raise your hand if you grew up in the Clean Plate Club. You know, where that space where, in that era where not finishing your mashed potatoes felt like it was punishable by law. Are you ready to revoke that membership? Let's talk about revoking that membership. So, here's the deal. We enter eating season already full from candy, parties, comfort food, leftover guilt. I don't know about you, but there was a lot of guilt associated with food when I was younger. And it wasn't just in my house. It was like at everybody's house. I grew up in the area where there were routine ads about the starving children in Ethiopia. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not making fun of it. I'm not taking it lightly. It was a very serious social issue at the time. But because of that, our parents were really extra on us to not waste food. And the fact of the matter is that relates to later unhealthy relationships with food. So a lot of us were trained to ignore fullness cues. We were told to finish what's on our plate. We were told not to waste food, and we were told that we had to clean our plate before we could eat dessert. And cleaning your plate before you can eat dessert makes a lot of sense if you're refusing to eat the good food and you just want the desserts and the indulgent food. But sometimes there's a fine line there. And, so a lot of times we did what we were commanded instead of responding to our body. And I get it. When you're kids, you know, you just want to go play. You don't care about being full. I've got stories about this. I've got a few stories about this actually. But I'm always amazed. I've been trained to pace myself according to what's on my plate. I've just recognized this about myself, that it's something I do. So if there's a lot on my plate, I eat a little faster so that presumably it's subconscious so that I can get through it before my stomach goes, hey, dude, stop. So I'm always amazed at how little I eat at mixers. Like when we go to big chamber mixers in the area, I actually don't eat anywhere near as much as I would normally eat for dinner. And I do just fine. It's because I'm busy talking. It's because the plates are smaller. So there are things that we can do to mitigate that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But the payback is rough, y'all. The payback is rough. I spent a good chunk of last December sick because I had different things going on. But on top of that, I had eaten too much of the wrong food. And I'm starting to feel that already, having had brunch out in the same day that I had the Civic Association dinner. When we're out there and we're eating those prepared foods or restaurant foods or catered foods, whatever, instead of kind of controlling our food intake at home. And that just happens more and more as we get closer to the holidays. We're eating out more because we're busy. We have parties, we have shopping, we have preparations to do. We don't want to cook at home because maybe we're already prepping big meals for families. So what happens is the payback can be rough, and we don't necessarily realize it because it sneaks up on us, and then we're like, oh, we got some bad food somewhere, or pick a reason. When the truth of the matter is that a lot of it is overindulgence, and our bodies are like, what is going on? Holy crud. Crad, I started to say crud and it can't, yeah, anyway. And it just becomes, we get this bloating and we can't figure out why we feel like we've gained 20 pounds. We look like the Michelin Man. I know that's a problem for me. And it's because we are overindulging. And then everything we do just makes our stomachs angrier. So most people I know spend the entire, including me, spend the entire holidays complaining how full they are. And that doesn't stop us because we have all these things that we need to do when it comes to food in the holiday season. So it's like we think the stuffing isn't complete unless the stuffing is us. So why do we still do this? Why do we do this even though we're whatever age we are when we're watching this video? I'm about to be 52. Why do we still do this even though we know better? Well, it's conditioning. It's conditioning that goes way back to the way we were programmed when we were kids. And it's not, don't misunderstand me, it's not necessarily any one person's fault. It has to do with you. Sometimes it has to do with your family and your household culture. Other times it has to do with the general culture. Like I said, a lot of mine, we grew up on the government cheese and milk and WIC and or I grew up on government cheese and milk, WIC, food stamps, whatever we grew in the garden and whatever my stepfather shot in the woods. So I realize now that I was actually very fortunate because those foods, a lot of those foods, especially the garden, the lean game meat, like venison, was much cleaner and much less processed. Homemade bread, things like that. It made it a lot easier for me to make transitions when I got older to more natural, healthier foods because I was reverting to training. But the fact of the matter is that we have conditioning, whether it's general culture when we were generational, family, whatever, we have conditioning that teaches us how we think about food now. And a lot of times we don't even realize it until we get the opportunity to dig into it like I did this last week. So why do we still do it? Well, there's several reasons. One, everybody has a family food pusher. I actually use that term quite a bit. That's the one who treats no thanks I'm full like a personal attack. And we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by not finishing their meal that they slaved away over for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, the entire day, the last 2 days, whatever. I tease Eric all the time when we're eating dinner. If we heated up leftovers or something like that, I'll be like, how is it? He'll be like, it's good. I'll be like, great. I worked on it all day. When it's leftovers that have been sitting in the refrigerator for 2 days and we just reheated it. But the point is that we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And we all have a family food pusher. I have made jokes more times than I can count about people in my family that cannot stop asking you if you want something to eat the entire time that you're there. Do you want something to eat? An hour later, there's this, this, and this in the refrigerator. Are you hungry? An hour later, are you sure you don't want anything to eat? Can I send something home with you? Oh my gosh. And that's because that's their love language. They don't know that's how they show their love, as they feed you. But if you've ever watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you know that can be seriously problematic, right? So everyone has a family food pusher, sometimes more than one. And we don't ever want to hurt. One big thing is we never want to hurt somebody else's feelings. If we were raised right, we've been told not to hurt somebody else's feelings by not eating their food, or not cleaning the plate that's in front of us. So that's a huge area of previous conditioning. As kids, we were rewarded when we cleaned our plate, which means we associate cleaning our plate with being good and pleasing others. And then we still crave that gold star. I don't know about you, but I remember one restaurant, and I want to say it was La Senorita. If you cleaned your plate, they literally had a clean plate club for kids. And if you cleaned your plate, you got to get something out of their pirate chest or treasure chest or whatever it was. I think that restaurant's still open up in Michigan. So, if you're on here and you hear me talking about La Senorita, confirm yes or no, but I'm pretty sure it's still open. In any case, we still crave that gold star. We equate finishing our plate, not wasting food, with being a good girl or boy. And so we have a hard time because we were rewarded as kids. So that's a dopamine hit. I cleaned my plate. Now I can have dessert. I cleaned my plate. You see, does this sound familiar? And it's really something I didn't give a lot of thought to until last week when I was struggling because I was already struggling with the effects of overindulgence from the meals out that we'd already had. And so every little thing that I ate, good for me or not, was making me feel excessively full because I was already having a little stomach trouble from all of that overindulgence. So like I said, we associate that with being good. We associate that with pleasing others. And it's very much a subconscious dopamine hit when we get that little gold star from cleaning our plate. Also, another issue is that we truly want to try all the things. Guilty. I see mixers, dinners, buffets as an opportunity to try things I've never had without committing to a full plate of it. And that's that's actually pretty sound reasoning. I'm a huge fan of trying new things. Ask my daughter. She grew up with me singing, try new things, try new things. Yes, that's as much as you're going to hear me sing on this video. But but I like to do it when I don't have to commit to a whole plate so that I don't what? So that I don't waste food, right? So buffets, mixers, things where things are spread out and you can try little bits and pieces. I see those as opportunities to try all the things. And in the holidays, we really want to try all the things. We get serious FOMO if we don't. If you don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. Hey, Miss Dawn. One of the places that this happens the most is actually not in the eating season. It's when we attend something that our friends throw called the annual Bacon Bash. That's some serious FOMO. There's a lot of food. Every dish that somebody brings, it's basically a giant potluck, and every dish is centered around the theme of bacon. There's a lot of food. All the things taste way better than you would expect if they're made with bacon. And there's serious FOMO. Like, I'll think I have everything and I'll sit down and Eric will come with his plate and I'll be like, what is that? Where did you get that? And he's like, oh, it's already gone. I got the last one. What? How? I'm not going to get to try it? Oh my gosh. So we get some serious FOMO. We want to try all the things, especially if you're like me and you want to take the opportunity to try things you haven't tried before without committing to a full plate or a full meal of it. So this is also where we get in trouble when we get into family dinners, potlucks, buffets, mixers, things like that, is we want to try all the things and we often end up overindulging. I have learned with Bacon Bash, I literally take the equivalent of about one bite of each thing. Otherwise, there's just no way, y'all. There's just no way. So that's the number 3 thing. The number 4 thing is that we're in a hurry all the damn time, y'all. We're just in a hurry. We eat in our cars. We eat at our desks when we're working. I do. I don't take a lunch break. I shovel food in my mouth while I'm standing at my desk, working or doing schoolwork, and various other reasons that we are in a hurry. So we have to eat fast. We had football practice and it's almost bedtime. We've got to be somewhere. Oh, these people are having a party and I need to stop by, but I don't want to stay and eat. So let me eat real quick before I go. And then we still end up eating. So we're in a hurry all the damn time. And y'all, I tend to eat fast. I have always eaten fast. When I was a kid, my stepfather blamed it on, the fact that the faster we ate our lunch and got outside, the more recess we had. That there were frequently playground, races to whoever got to the swings first, because then nobody ever got off the swings till recess was over. And I can see where there was some real legitimacy to that. So for the longest time as a kid, he made me eat with, chopsticks with the idea of slowing me down. The joke was on him though, because I got so good at the chopsticks that I still finished dinner before everybody else, because I was like 10 or 11 and that was like challenge accepted. You think you can slow me down with these chopsticks? Hold my Kool-Aid. So the fact is that we're in a hurry. We're in a hurry for some stinking reason. This starts, I believe there was some legitimacy to it starting when we're kids and we want to get out there and have lunch recess, especially now that for a lot of kids, that lunch break time or whatever may be the only time they get to go outside during the school day, if then. So we're in a hurry all the time. We're eating in our cars. We're eating at our desks when we're working. We're not slowing down to A, enjoy our food, and to B, just slow down and actually like take a lunch break and be mindful of what we're eating. And I'll tell you what, it's largely because of that I think that I have learned how to subconsciously pace myself. Y'all, I used to be able to eat those giant burritos from Chipotle till I got food poisoning on one. I used to be able to eat those giant burritos from Chipotle, and nobody could figure out how somebody my size could pack away the same size burrito as my boyfriend at the time, who was like 6'4" and 200 and some pounds. It's because I believe I learned at an early age to pace myself according to whatever was on my plate. So I subconsciously know how fast I have to eat to make sure that I get it all down and I get my clean plate before I get full and can't eat anymore. So anyway, so the next thing, the number 5 thing is, the number 4 thing leads to the number 5 thing, which is distraction eating. Because we're doing other things that drown out our fullness cues, and the sensory enjoyment, we tend to eat more. Studies actually show that distracted eaters consume 25 to 50% more before they register full. I have a personal affection for peanut M&Ms. Sometimes in the evening, I get a little bit hungry. There's not really anything else I feel like I can grab that's a healthier choice. Sometimes there is. Or I get a sweet tooth and I just can't stop thinking about those peanut M&Ms. I figured out a few months ago, if I sit down in the living room in front of the TV with the bag, I'm going to eat probably at least twice as much of those M&Ms as I am if I put a handful into a bowl, leave the bag somewhere else, and sit down in the living room with my little bowl of M&Ms. Laziness trumps sugar craving. I'm still getting my sugar craving, but I'm too lazy to get up and refill the bowl. So it makes a huge difference. And that confirms that fact that, hey, Miss Carla, that studies show that distracted eaters consume 25 to 50% more before they register full, because they're missing the food cues. And then the final thing, at least for me, but for a lot of people, is free food. Free food equals scarcity mindset, or triggers the scarcity mindset, or plays off of it, or feeds it, whatever. If you grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, if you grew up hearing waste not, want not, which I still say routinely in this house, if your brain links wasted food with moral failure, this is a scarcity mindset. And this scarcity mindset tells us if I don't eat it, I might not get it again. I have to take advantage of this opportunity while it's in front of me. And that wiring doesn't just disappear because your pantry is full now. Trust me on this one. I could go in, and I may at some point in the near future go into a whole Wellness Wednesday episode about scarcity mindset. I've learned a lot about that mindset with myself. And I can tell you that it's real and it's a thing. And I've slowly learning to identify it in myself. But that wiring doesn't just disappear because your pantry's full. Yes, Dawn, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But that free food, for some reason, even if I'm not hungry, even if it's donuts, and I rarely eat donuts because I know donuts are going to sit in my stomach like a rock. But if you put a free dozen donuts in front of me, I can't not take a donut, y'all. I cannot not take a donut. So there's definitely a free food issue that is directly related to scarcity mindset. And that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th thing that really drives us with this old food conditioning that we deal with when we hit the eating season. So how do we stop? We got to slow down. That's the number one thing. We got to slow down. We got to take time to eat slowly. We got to chew our food completely and not inhale it half chewed. And we got to focus on how it tastes. Now, there's been a lot of different schools of thought in terms of dieting about eat to fuel your body, not for how it tastes. Let's face it. We all like the taste of most food. We probably wouldn't eat as much if we didn't, right? So while I can and have gotten behind the idea of just fuel, sometimes I get burnt out with food. Sometimes I get bored. I get tired of trying to figure out what I want to make, what I want to eat. I just want to be full and not deal with all of that that's involved, right? Hey, Miss Stacy. In that respect, then sometimes I purposely don't pay attention to how the food tastes. I go for the things that are going to fuel me the best, the easiest, so that I can move on. There's that in a hurry thing, right? But for the most part, if we take the time to eat slowly, we take the time to be mindful and taste the food and notice the flavor, the texture, whatever, we are not going to eat as much. We are going to get full sooner because we're going to be paying attention to the whole sensory experience of the food. And that includes our fullness cues where our body's like, okay, you're done. Be mindful of beverages. Not only is it the eating season, but it's the drinking season. And even if we're drinking non-alcoholic drinks, there's holiday cheer drinks and there's eggnog and there's all these things where we're literally drinking like a day's worth of calories in a party. But these beverages also make us feel full. At home, I drink mostly water. I drink green tea. I drink herbal teas and an occasional cup of coffee. But I have recognized that some of these beverages make me feel fuller than others. And when I have those beverages at certain times of day, I have a tendency to skip lunch. Why? Because my brain thinks I'm full. And that means that's dangerous for me because that means I'm not getting enough food. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I need to eat 5 minutes ago. I think I'm going to pass out. My blood sugar's tanking and I'm getting hangry. So it's important to be mindful of the beverages that we're drinking when we're at these parties, when we're at these dinners, because that adds to the fullness. And that is also probably why I'm amazed at how much less I eat when I'm at mixer type events, because I'm also having a beer or two, which I don't normally have with dinner. So be mindful of that, of what you're drinking, when you're in these situations. If you're starting to feel full, ask yourself if you're enjoying it still, or if you're just trying to finish it. Like, are you still hungry? Are you eating this because it's good? Which sometimes in of itself can be dangerous. Sometimes we go back for seconds and we don't want it just because it tastes so good and we don't want to stop eating. That's usually the trouble with M&Ms, which is why I started taking the little tiny bowl of them over to the couch. So we got to ask ourselves, are we enjoying the food? Are we still feeding our hunger? Or are we just trying to finish that plate so that we don't look bad, so that we get the gold star, whatever the case may be? This is my favorite. They make to-go boxes and Tupperware for a reason. It was really hard, and I still struggle with it in a restaurant. They give you so much food. Nobody needs that much food in one sitting, okay? They give you so much food. It was a struggle for me to realize I could take some of that food home and reheat it the next day. I could actually get 2 meals, sometimes more, out of one dish, which means if I'm sitting there trying to clean that plate in that restaurant so I can get that prize out of that treasure chest, I am eating way too much food. Good morning, Miss Kayla. So they make to-go boxes for a reason. And this is a nod to my girl Tupperware Tara, because one of the events that we had this month, and Kayla will start cracking up when I say this. My girl Tupperware Tara, I saw a post. I didn't see her actually do it, but I know that they had a lot of leftover steaks at the Boys and Girls Club Steak and Steak, so they offered everybody the opportunity to take some home. I did not. I saw a post later on Facebook after we left of a picture of Tara holding a Tupperware container with steak in it. It said, "Never forget your Tupperware." Yeah, right, Kayla? You always tune in when I'm talking about food. The whole thing's about food, so just go back to the beginning when you get a chance. So I was dying laughing because Tara's like, "Never forget your Tupperware." And she's not wrong. They make these things for a reason. It's okay to take food home. So there's my nod to Tara. If you need Tupperware, I'll hook you up with my girl. But it was hilarious to me, that she actually, it was hilarious, but also smart at the same time, that she actually brought her Tupperware in a bag to Steak and Steak presumably in case she didn't finish her meal and wanted to take some of it home. But then they said, "Hey, go grab some steaks to take home. We've got leftovers." And so it was a unique opportunity for her. So they make to-go boxes for a reason. They make Tupperware for a reason. Learn to take your food home. I am getting much better because I don't like to waste food. I don't like to send food back to the kitchen, to the garbage, to whatever. So I eyeball the plate right off the bat, and I'm like, am I eating all of this or no? And so I will sometimes just eat half of everything. Sometimes I'll just eat the things that I know aren't gonna reheat well, and then take the rest of it home. It's really, as long as you treat your leftovers the way you would your own food. I'm a little funny about leftovers. I usually won't, restaurant leftovers versus my own. I usually won't eat them more than 2 to 3 days out. Whereas my own leftovers, I'll eat up to a week out. But I also know how the food's been prepared versus no idea. So it depends on what it is too. But you can take your food home. You don't have to eat it all right there. Just letting you know. It was really hard pill for me to swallow. I was like, I can't take that home. How's it going to reheat? It's not going to taste the same. I got to eat it all right now. That's a lot of pressure, y'all. Especially when these restaurants bring out these big old plates of food. So release the guilt. That's the next thing. That's what I was just talking about. Release the guilt. Wasting a few bites of food is not a moral failure. Y'all, I made this delicious honey garlic chicken in the crock pot last week. It is so good. It is also full of sugar, natural sugar, pineapple juice, honey, and it's served over rice. That's a lot of sugar and a lot of carbs for me, a lot more than I usually eat. So by the end of the week, I'm like, oh, good God, I cannot eat any more of this. We finished it off last night. I picked through, got the chicken and the pineapple that was left and left, I don't know, probably maybe half a cup of rice on the plate. I threw it away. I didn't feel guilty about it. That doesn't happen very often. So release the guilt. Wasting a few bites of food is not a moral failure. I know we were taught that. I can distinctly remember the starving children in Ethiopia commercials being on the TV in the kitchen behind me while we were eating dinner and getting in trouble because I was still eating and it didn't upset my appetite to hear about it. There's so many places I can go with that. But that is the culture a lot of us grew up in. That we need to eat all of our food because there's starving children somewhere that don't have that food, that we can't waste food. And we tie that into moral failure. Another way to stop is to take tiny amounts of your favorites or the things you really want to try and skip the rest. If you already know how it tastes, or you're going to have it at Thanksgiving dinner in 2 weeks, skip it. We know what green bean casserole tastes like. I love green bean casserole, but if I know I'm going to be eating it 5 times in the next 5 weeks, I'm going to skip it when I'm at a party at somebody else's place, whatever. I'm going to try, I try to go for the things that I haven't tried before. Yes, she does rock, Kayla. Tupperware Tara absolutely rocks. I'm going to go for the things that I haven't tried or the things that I don't get very often. And those are the things that I'm going to. So take tiny amounts, either of your favorites or of the things you really want to try, little bites. That is a way to stop and slow us down before we have overstuffed ourselves like yesterday's turkey. And remember that you're not depriving yourself. You're deciding for yourself. And the most important thing, make gratitude part of your meal. Appreciate the flavor, appreciate the moment, appreciate the company, whatever's going on. All of these holiday parties, they are opportunities to see people you haven't seen in a while, to see people in a different setting than you usually see them, to enjoy their company, to network, to whatever. Enjoy those moments. And you're going to be, let's face it, if you're talking, you can't be stuffing your face. Some people can. We probably don't want to be talking to those people while they're eating, but you know what I mean. So it's time to heal the old programming. So here's some things to think about and reflect on. How did your family talk about food when you were growing up? What was the general feeling around food? Because that's going to be where your clues are. Were you ever made to feel guilty for not finishing your food or for eating too much? I have a story about that too. I'll leave that for another day. So if you were ever made to feel guilty for not finishing or for eating too much, that's another huge clue to why you are the way you are about food now. And can you I challenge you to reflect on whether or not you can see where some of those old messages from when you were younger about food show up today, not just with food, but how much of it you take in, or how guilty you feel. And again, not just with food, but with other things too, like if you're taking on too much all the time so that you get the gold star so that everybody's happy, or if you feel guilty when you rest because you feel like you should be doing something else. These are all clues to old conditioning that it's still working in the background. It's like, you know how Microsoft used to run updates in the background and not bother you or slow down your computer? That's what we're talking about. This is programming that's running in the background. So here's my challenge to you today. I'm going to wrap this up. I know I'm running a little long today. Share a funny Clean Plate Club memory in the comments. And then think about what old food rule, words are hard, what old food rule you are ready to break up with. That's my challenge to you this next week. Shoot me a message. Let me know in the comments what it is if you want to share. Otherwise, just do the thing and say, hey, Donna, I did the thing. And remember these things before I let you go. It is okay to stop before your plate is empty. It's almost like an affirmation you can write down and post on your mirror. It is okay to stop eating before your plate is empty if you are full. It is. Leftovers make a fabulous next day lunch or dinner. Ask my girl Tara. Just, you might want to eat them a little faster than you would the food. I even finally brought sushi home and had it the next day for lunch. And I lived, and it was still good. Just for the record. So it is okay to bring leftovers home. They make a fabulous next day lunch or dinner. Eat them within a couple of days if you're not sure about the preparation. You're good to go. In the words of my girl Tara, always bring your Tupperware. That just warmed my heart that day. It just cracked me up. And don't forget that if you love this message and you think it'll help somebody else, share it. Follow me, follow my YouTube channel if you would rather look at these on YouTube instead of Facebook, whatever. But if you found it helpful, please share. And that's all I have for today. So just, a little something to get you prepared before the official food parade starts on October 31st. And I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. And until next week, be well. Bye.